This week on Dan Really Likes Wine, 4 different wines put together by celebrities, but not just lending their name to the labels. To various degrees, they've actually got quite involved in the process and produced 4 wines that are all very different, but all play off the collective love of the grape that these celebrities have. Before we get going with the wine though, as we're on the subject of celebrities, 2 wine celebrities who produced some books that I thought were worth a mention. The first of these, the godfather of wine ranking in South Africa, Jan Braai. Now he's not running the guide himself anymore, but he did kick it off. It's an extraordinary book and the world's most comprehensive wine listing. There's nowhere in the world that has every single wine in a particular country chronicled and catalogued. And this is a love letter to the wine that Jan Braai has drunk over the years. It's a fascinating book. It's really him just writing about why he loves wine and which wine he has a particular fondness for. It's well worth a read and great fun. And then if you're watching Dan Really Likes Wine and you're in the early stages of coming to grips with what wine is all about, then this is the one for you. It is from the guys behind Platter, but it's JP Rousseau in particular. He's a well-known figure in the food and wine industry in South Africa. Everything you wanted to know about wine, but were too afraid to ask, including what wine do you have with KFC? I'm not making that up. It's a very cool book. It's a lot of fun, but you'll learn a surprising amount. So 2 great books to add to your wine library if you don't have them already. So, some good books, how about some good wine to add to your collection? And we start this week with wine from a guy called Jan Braai. Now, Jan Braai used to be an accountant. It didn't take him too long to realise that being an accountant wasn't nearly as much fun as wandering around the world, making a television show, having braais and washing it all down with a little wine. And this is wine he's brought out under his own label. It's made for him by Alvi's Drift on the Brede River up near Worcester. And this is a very simple, fairly entry-level Sauvignon Blanc. It's less than 50 rand a bottle. And this is part of the Jan Braai empire. He's got books, he's got beer. There's not much Jan doesn't have. And this is his first foray into the world of wine. So as you'd expect from a wine given to you by somebody called Jan Braai, this is a simple and complicated affair for opening up around a fire, pull it out of the cooler box and wash down whatever you're having. Nice chilled Sauvignon Blanc is a fairly fundamental part of a South African braai if you're not having a beer, and that's really what I suspect Jan has looked to put together. Nothing too expensive, made by Alvi's Drift, who've made some very nice wine, especially white wine over the years, and this is his contribution to life around the fire. And that's certainly very pleasant. It's unlikely to trouble the upper echelons of Jan Braai, but then it's not really meant to. It is going to provide a very genial companion around the fire, and that is pretty much Jan Braai himself. Our second wine comes from Infinity Wines, the first 11, and if that sounds like it has a cricketing nuance, then you would be correct. This is the wine of AB de Villiers and Faf du Plessis, together with a couple of guys from across the water, Stephen Fleming, the former captain of New Zealand, and Mike Hussey, one of Australia's modern greats. And sitting around after an IPL game in India one day, they thought about making some wine, and this is the end result. Now they're looking at making wine in New Zealand and Australia as well under the same label, but they've started with the country that makes the best wine of the 3 of those, that being South Africa. They made it at Rickety Bridge. Faf's mate is out at Rickety Bridge, and they've put together, in the case of this, a wine called the Belter, which applies both to a nice batting track, but also to a wine that's really good. It's a Rhône blend, it's a 2014, and according to Faf, it's brilliant. So let's see if I agree. Now, it's very easy to simply put your name on a bottle of wine and leave it there. Plenty of celebrities have done it over the years. But in the case of all of these wines, the celebrities have actually got really involved. Jan is very passionate about everything he does, and in this case it's Faf who's taken the lead. AB de Villiers certainly enjoys his wine, but Faf is extra passionate. He has his own restaurant down in Stellenbosch, and whenever he's travelling in New Zealand or Australia, he'll often send me messages if he's had a day off and had the chance to go to a wine estate. Strangely, he hasn't done that too often when he's been on tour in Pakistan or Bangladesh. He He loves his wine, and this is a wine that he's been really excited about putting together. And it's a wine that has done remarkably well. It's a Rhône blend, 5 reds, led by Syrah with just a little touch of Viognier at the end, which should make for a very, very smooth drink. And the only failing there would be mine for not dropping this in the fridge, because it's that kind of light, delicate wine that probably could have done with a degree or two of it. But otherwise, it is very pleasant indeed. What I really like about this is not only is it a fairly complex wine, so it's a wine that a lot of thought has gone into, but it's also not that expensive. You're looking at about 140, 150 rand a bottle for this, which, given the big names involved, is perhaps not what you'd be expecting. But it does speak of a love of wine and a real enjoyment of the people behind it, and that's exactly what Pfaff in particular was after. Now, third up, a wine from a man you used to know as a swimmer, but is now really making his name as a businessman. Neethling, Olympic gold medalist, and a man who lit up not just swimming pools but magazine covers around the world. Big, strong, and according to my mother-in-law, my sisters, my aunts, and my hairdresser Julian, an absolutely beautiful man, he's now moved away and undergone a transformation that I think is really impressive. He's running Val de Vie, heading up the marketing team, the estate down just outside of Paarl. They just bought Pearl Valley, the golf estate. They're doing really well. They've got a very, very exciting range of projects, and amongst those is the wine. And you could think it's a little bit of an afterthought. It's a big property development. They've got the polo fields, now the golf estate, but they do take the wine very seriously indeed. And Rick has had a big part to play in creating another really nice wine style blend. So just like the previous wine, this is also a Rhône style red blend. Shiraz headlining, another 5 reds put together, and that's because Val de Vie is in Great Rhône area. It's what they mostly do in terms of reds. Now, disappointingly, this has got no hint of chlorine on the nose. The Neethling instead just feels like a really elegant and composed red blend. 2011, it's had 6 years or thereabouts to grow into itself, and it's looking very appealing. So where the preceding wine would be ideal for sitting beside a cricket field on a hot summer's day watching AB and Pfaff destroy a hapless attack, this one's got a little bit more intensity to it. It's a little more brooding, a little bit more meat to it. So really nice for a colder, more wintry day. It's a wine that still has a lot of elegance. It's got a lot of feel to it, a lot of passion to it. It's a really nice Rhône blend. And if you drop in at Val de Vie, where Rake calls home, you'll often find him having lunch, having a glass of wine, running through the wine that Val de Vie make, and ensuring very dutifully that he keeps an eye on the product. And if this is what it's all like, then Val de Vie's certainly making great strides. And so to the last of our celebrity wines, and this is almost notorious. So at the Cape Wine Auction last year, I sold not this very bottle, but the very first bottle of this Touch Warwick for 1.3 million rand. And that's a daft sum of money for any bottle of wine, but especially for this. Nobody had tasted it before, and the only thing that really made it stand out was the collaboration. Thibaut Touch, media superstar, formerly of Metro FM, now working with Gareth Cliff on Touch Central, and Mike Ratcliffe and the team at Warwick. But the real reason it went for 1.3 million rand was because it was a charity auction. It was a big statement of intent and a wealthy benefactor putting some money into some very, very good projects. The projects funded by the Cape Wine Auction. It's still an expensive wine though. You buy this in a restaurant, depending where you are, it can be between 2,000 and 3,000 rand. Now that's an awful lot of money for a bottle of South African wine, even if it is from Warwick, who are behind the M series and C series at Villafonte, as well as their own Warwick wines. But does having Thibaut Touch on board mean that it really justifies this extra price? Let's find out. So this does have all the hallmarks of a very classy bottle of wine. It is a very heavy piece of glass. It would do nicely as a murder weapon should you require one on short notice from your cellar. It's got the waxed top, which always looks good, and this one's surprisingly easy to open. Sometimes you find yourself chipping away. That came off nice and simply. And then the wine itself, it's got this deep, rich, smoky, aristocratic look to it, so it certainly does look the business. How does it fare on the palate? Let's see. And that is very, very good indeed. The jury will probably stay out as to the value of it, but I think if you're buying this and you're hanging on to it rather than drinking it immediately, you're going to find an already excellent wine that's full of deep, rich fruits and a really nice, smooth, velvety finish. It's going to get even better with age. It's built to last. It hasn't really been lasting. This has been selling out all over the place, in no small part because Thibaut Touch has got such a massive following and his acolytes have been buying it up at every opportunity. But for the little of the Touch that does remain, and they didn't make an awful lot, if you hang on to it and keep this, I think an already excellent wine is only going to get more so. R1,000 or thereabouts at cellar door? Yeah, I think it could just be worth the investment. It'll be the first of many though. Thibaut's bringing out more wine, so too AB and Pfaff. I think Jan will probably have some more out before too long, and Neethling continues to see his Valdivia estate make some great wine. These are a group of celebrities who haven't just put their name on the wine, they've bought into it, they've helped to make it work, and across the board, the results are pretty good. Cheers.